This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Good Monday evening, everybody, on what was a very much chaotic and wild day in sports, with the regular season for Major League Baseball finally ending on a Monday in wake of bad weather on the East Coast, on top of week 4 of the NFL season concluding. As we also get closer to NBA training camps opening up, the NHL also in full swing with their preseason, and the WNBA postseason also heating up here as well. Welcome in, folks, to C2C at Night. Alongside that man, James Gonzales, joining us from up in Oceanside, California. Yours truly, Callan and McClurg, joining you here in San Diego on the eve of game number 1 of the Wild Card Series. And, James, it was a wild day for sure in Major League Baseball and across the sports world for that matter, my friend. But big game, James, is always my man. Good to see you. How's it going tonight?
Man, we had it all today. Just I was at work and I just couldn't believe what the hell was going on my phone, and a little good, a little bad, a little of everything. I even caught some preseason hockey tonight with the freeway face-off in Anaheim. So, I think I rounded the bases with all the sports today.
Yeah, I think we both circled the bases today, took the grand sports tour between Major League Baseball and the last 2 games of the regular season. The Mets and Braves duking it out for postseason seeding today. Arizona hoping for a miracle for a sweep of the doubleheader. Again, we had 2 NFL games wrap up. We have NBA media days around the NBA going on. NHL training camp reaching about the halfway mark of their preseason. And also over the weekend, we had some great WNBA playoff action as well, and even some great college football as well on the table as well. With that, folks, in mind, as always, here on C2C at Night, myself, Callan, McClurg, and James Gonzales come your way every Monday night at around 11 o'clock in the evening to recap the day that was in sports and kind of even talk about the weekend that was in sports. We're going to be going, folks, a lot of different directions today, but as always, if you are up late on this Monday night, heading into a Tuesday evening, drop your live input. Again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, cold takes, what have you. Drop them in our live chat box on Facebook, YouTube, or on the Calamax Sports Twitch channel. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary, as always, is read live on the air here this evening. However, James, before we go into the nitty-gritty of sports talk today, I always hate having to do a in memoriam segment. And it, sadly, James, involves 2 people today in the sports world. One who we knew was sick, and one that hit us like a ton of bricks at about 3 o'clock local time today. Let's first, James, start with the big fella and probably one of arguably the greatest shot blockers in NBA history. The man himself, Dikembe Mutombo, sadly passed away, James, early on Monday morning via a release from his family at the age of 58 after reports of brain cancer. Dikembe had been battling a brain tumor for the latter half of 2 years. Of course, James, he is, I believe, second all-time in blocks in the NBA behind his fellow countrymen, for that matter, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, playing his college ball at Georgetown, playing across 15-plus seasons with numerous franchises. I think best known for his time in Denver, also known for his time with the 76ers, Atlanta, also known there, and before he retired, was a Houston Rocket in the mid to late 2000s. And obviously, James, I think everyone knows Dikembe Mutombo just for the whole finger wag, not in my house, no, not today, kind of how he trash-talked his players, though. But I think, James, the stories I've read, though, more about Dikembe Mutombo are not on the basketball court. It's more about his humanitarian efforts in Congo, where he's from, and in Africa. I think he was instrumental in them starting the African Basketball League down in South Africa, in parts of the world down there. And I really, James, think that Joel Embiid said it so well today to ESPN.com at Sixers Media Day that this is a tremendous loss for basketball, not because of his on-the-court play, James, but because of his contributions to the game away from the floor. And I think, James, it might be a bit unfair for me to say this. I really think that Dikembe Mutombo could be, in my honest opinion, the Roberto Clemente for the NBA and for basketball. Again, global name, bringing basketball to Africa, what he's done to help his home country of Congo when it comes to the water supply and sanitation efforts, and how he really has been a global pillar of this global game that is professional basketball. But I think, James, you sent me a clip earlier today, and I wasn't able to pull it up because of copyright violation, sadly. But it's the reaction, though, of Dikembe 30 years ago when the Denver Nuggets, the number 8 seed, knocked out the almighty number 1 seed Seattle Supersonics, I believe, at the Key Arena. And the reaction of Dikembe being on his back, pumping his fist like he was bench pressing in the weight room, about how much it meant for the Nuggets to knock out that number 1 seed in the 94 postseason. And again, how the Sonics were kind of a juggernaut at that time in the mid to late 90s. But I think, James, I more so remember Dikembe Mutombo for the finger wag, the friendly banter and trash talk of not in my house, get that thing out of here. But I think mainly, though, I will remember him, I think, for his contributions to the game of basketball as the global ambassador, as the global face of basketball in Congo, in Africa, in the ABL, down in South Africa. But James, how will you remember Dikembe Mutombo, who again passed away on Monday due to a battle with brain cancer at the age of just 58 on Monday morning?
It hurt when I read that this morning. Growing up, I had all these sports cards training cards from my brothers. And I still have, I think, 5 of Mutombo's rookie cards. And
I think I have one somewhere of him with the Hawks. And it was the very cool era, James, where they had the all black with the Hawk logo and the wingspan went all the way across the jersey. One of my favorite looks of all time.
Yeah, and the red blended into the shorts. Man, yeah, you mentioned this stuff off the court. Like, he was the first global ambassador for the NBA. And just look how big the NBA is now around the league, around the world, I should say. And I remember watching some, African League play this year. I think it was the actual championship game. And Dikembe, wasn't there. And they always said, oh, he's always there. He's always there at a game. But we knew why he wasn't. And yeah, I'll always remember him for building hospitals, schools, being around the children there at the Republic of Congo and Africa, where he came from. Here, you didn't really know what he was going to be at first. He went to a Nuggets team that really struggled for a couple years after the 80s.
Post Alex English.
Yeah, and Kiki Vandeweghe and all them. And he took them to the playoffs. There was quite a drought there in the early 90s, and his defense was just amazing. I mean, he knew where every shot was coming from, and he send it those back. It was awesome like that. Could score inside. Always had a little jump hook that was simple. He could dunk it. A little jump shot. He was always good with that, but it was mostly his defensive prowess. He was 8-time All-Star, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. You'll never see that again.
No way, no how.
2-time a rebound leader, 6-time All-Defensive Team, 3-time blocks leader, and all-time, like you mentioned, 3,289 blocks, second of all time. Of course, the finger wave we'll always remember. It was a thing for everyone to do, and I do remember a couple of times he either got a tech for it or I can't remember who it was, but he was busy finger waving and the team scored after he blocked someone. So it was a little blooper I always remember. I remember him also. He got traded from the Nuggets to the Hawks and then traded again to the Sixers, and that everything but the championship, everything but the ship, the story of the 2001 Sixers. You know, Allen Iverson mentioned, hey, like we really needed Mutombo, and they met up at the All-Star game. I believe it was in Washington that year, and he was trying to get AI was trying to get him to want to leave and go to Philly, and that happened. And he was such a defensive anchor in that series or that playoffs to get him to the finals. I think he bounced around. He went to the Nets after a while. I even want to say the Knicks. I can't remember, but he ended up on that Rockets team that had that 21 game winning streak in 2009. That was pretty impressive because they were without Yao Ming, and he stepped in pretty well. With it.
That would have been something if you would have maybe seen Yao and Dikembe on the floor together. That would have been something.
Yeah, it's amazing that they would have had another Twin Towers. If you recall, in the 80s, they had Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon together, and that was fun. I was actually watching, I think it was like the 84 draft, and they had those two together, Sampson and them. So, yeah, that would have been something. So the Rockets, they've always had a proud history of, big men. And Mutombo was part of that and part of the Sixers there. And now you have the Nuggets that have his number retired in the ball center, or ball arena, I should say. But yeah, he was the first global ambassador of the game. I think that's more important than anything he did on the floor. I always remember Bill Walton when he would do games, when he would talk about a player that's, international. He would mention Dikembe and all of his efforts, in Africa, and it's just sad that both are gone. It's a part of the NBA 90s and 2000s that that I'll miss and that I'll always remember. Defense is rarely played now, so it's kind of sad in a way to lose Dikembe, and he was just a great soul. He made his money or whatever, but he gave back, had a big heart, and, he'll be missed by everyone. I never heard a bad word said about him at all. So I'm going to miss Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah. Again, James, I resonate more, I think, with, like I said earlier, the humanitarian contributions, again, kind of like that weird comparison of him being like the Roberto Clemente for the NBA. But I don't really know, James, any player who has done more good things for growing basketball globally than Dikembe Mutombo. I would even say Yao with what he's done with the Chinese Basketball League on the men's side and the women's side, how he's been a great ambassador to grow the game over in China, despite, of course, what happened a couple of preseasons ago with Daryl Morey and his Twitter commentary about how things were going in the political fields over there. But certainly wishing all the best to the Mutombo family. Again, folks, the man himself, Mr. Fingerwag himself, Dikembe Mutombo, passed away early on Monday per reports, and via a statement from his son Ryan, who said that he was battling brain cancer and suffered a brain tumor about roughly 2 years ago and got treatment for it down in Atlanta. Again, the Nuggets and the Hawks had put out statements today concerning his passing, again, at the age of 58. But then, James, the startling one and the very shocking announcement that was also made in the sports world today was the very shocking death, James, of the baseball hit king himself, Pete Rose, who, per reports on Monday and via a confirmed report by the Clark County Medical Examiner in Nevada, announced the death of the hit king himself, Pete Rose, who passed away per that medical examination report at the age of 83 in Clark County, Nevada. Of course, James, we know the numbers, we know the backstory, the controversy, the all-star nods, the 4,256 career base hits, and all of the other junk off the field. But James, I want to get your thoughts first about Pete Rose, and I want to get to something else that really has been irking me and been really kind of ticking me off today about Pete Rose's passing. But James, we know the numbers, we know about what he had done in his great career with the Reds, both as a player, as the manager of the Reds, as a player manager, essentially. His 3 World Series rings with the Big Red Machine in the 70s, one more with the Phillies in 80, and again, just a consummate epitome of a baseball hitter that you would one up in a big situation, James. And I even told my parents today, somewhere up there in the heavens right now, Pete Rose is talking to Tony Gwynn about his approach at the plate. I'm pretty damn sure right now. But James, on the baseball side of things, how do you remember the hit king Pete Rose today?
I was just thinking to myself, isn't there a picture out there of Tony Gwynn getting his first hit and Pete Rose is at first?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And Pete, and if memory serves me correct, when Tony got his first hit off Sid Manji, who worked for the Padres for a long time in the front office after he retired, Pete Rose shook his hand, and Pete said, "Hey, kid, what are you trying to do? Pass me up in one night with all the hits that he already had?" I'm like, and Tony, in this interview he gave, was like, how cool is that, though, to have Pete Rose shake my hand and then, ask, kid, are you trying to pass me after one night? And like, how cool, though, is that to hear that from one of the game's all-time greats when you're a first-year player?
I thought I saw that picture one time, and Pete Rose was the epitome of the word hustle. I mean, his nickname was Charlie Hustle. And it's just funny. I think, what was it, about a month ago, I was trying to just find something to go to sleep with on YouTube. And this old show called The Baseball Bunch came up. I guess it was Saturday before This Week in Baseball back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But Johnny Bench, his teammate from the Cincinnati Reds, was hosting it, and Pete Rose came on. And I learned like so much I wish I knew back in the day when I was playing Little League. There's no one that I think treated the game with more respect than Pete Rose. I mean, you could talk about whatever else, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to it. But
yes,
when it comes to the on-the-field way of playing, he never took a play off, whether it was defensively or running down the bases on the ground ball, running down first. I mean, never. I watched old games with him, in the playoffs, the regular season, whatever the case was, whether he's with the Expos, the Reds, the Phillies, and back with the Reds. He never took a play off. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I think every week, Callan, we get an incident where someone's not hustling, someone's not running the ball out. It happened with Carlos Correa, last week in Minnesota. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, Pete would not accept that. Especially as a manager, I would expect that not to be the case, of course. But yeah, no one treated the game better than I think Pete Rose. I mean, for Christ's sake, he ran over a catcher, Ray Fosse, in the All-Star game. That'll never happen again. The way he treated the game was tremendous at the plate. He was always aggressive. I think I saved a reel I might play on, the next On Deck episode with Chris. But he said, be aggressive, stay aggressive, and just live like that at the plate or in life. So I heard that tonight, and I said, yeah, I got to save that. And that's the way he treated, playing all the positions he played. I remember him at first base mostly, but I think he was a second baseman as well.
Kind of like a utility guy before a utility guy kind of really became a thing in baseball, I think.
That's true. So he was an MVP one time, world champion 3-time, rookie of the year, had the most hits, of course, ever.
17 All-Stars.
Was the Cincinnati Reds basically. Only a 2-time Gold Glover, but I think there was so much competition at first base. 3-time batting.
Not just that, James. I kind of feel like, though, that maybe in a weird way, it's kind of like the Pete Rose, even like Luis Ariz nowadays. You'd rather, I think, have their bat in the lineup than worry about their defensive prowess.
That's great. He only had 160 home runs, but his lifetime batting average was 303. So I'm just, I was always amazed watching him, just the way he would run out plays, run hard. Like I said, I think he treated the game better than anybody else did on the field. And the way he talked about the game, too, I loved it. In interviews, when he was brought back to baseball, I think it was like 2015, 2016, 2017. he was on the MLB on Fox, pre and post game shows during the postseasons. And I tried to watch every show because, even though maybe his game was outdated, of course, or his way of thinking at the plate was going,
Right.
he would still go in there into that little Fox studio and they would have the batter's box there. And I learned so much from him. I think more than A-Rod, more than David Ortiz, Frank
Jeter.
Thomas, and now, of course, you have Jeter. But yeah, Pete Rose would break down everything. And it was just like watching that baseball bunch where, he would teach anyone how to hit, basically. And again, I learned so much of how to play hard, run the bases hard, just do everything with reason. And Pete Rose was the king of that to me.
Yeah, I think, James, it's really hard, despite the junk off the field, what did go down when he was managing the Reds. It's hard, I think, to discredit Pete Rose for his on-field prowess because of junk off the field. At the end of the day, though, James, 4,256, career hits, all the all-star nods. Like I said, he bowls over Ray Fosse in an all-star game. Like, it's supposed to be an exhibition game, yet he goes out there and trucks the catcher, basically like Allen Iverson stepping over Tyronn Lue to score the winning run, and then he's, bad-mouthing Fosse for blocking the play without the ball, when that play happens. Then I think, James, you do segue now to again his stuff off the field again. The whole thing with the gambling, all the years of yes, I did it, no, I didn't. I think, James, what left a bad taste, I think, in people's mouths was, I believe, the 99 All-Star game or 2000 All-Star game, either in Boston or in Atlanta, where I think Pete was now beginning to backpedal about saying I had gambled on the game. And I believe a book had come out at that time that he did wager on the game. And I recall Jim Gray on NBC Sports, who had the All-Star game on TV that year, flat out asking Pete after all the legends, dispersed the pregame pageantry, and Jim Gray point blank, did you bet on baseball? And Pete kept deflecting, why are you ruining such a great moment for the game? Asking me that, about something that happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. James, do you at all believe that maybe Pete, other than we know about the gambling ordeal, but that in later stages of his time, after the ban was first issued, the passing of Giamatti and Faye Vincent maybe overturning that ban, but then Giamatti passed away about a week or two after the ban was issued, but also how Pete carried himself, though, flatly denying it, retracting, denying it, like he kept, backpedaling or kept moving levers up and down a DJ switchboard. Did that in a way maybe hurt himself to maybe get back on the good side of the commissioner's office with how he kept retracting, saying yes, no, and maybe that Jim Gray interview that maybe was, the last straw that broke the camel's back for his reinstatement at that time?
Yeah, that was 2000 in Atlanta, and I think I remember watching that, and I didn't really understand what the hell was going on at the time, but I always remember Jim Gray was the one.
Never afraid to ask the hard-hitting question.
That's what I was just about to say, yeah. Him and Peter Vesey, but that was, NBA on NBC, were always the ones like that, yeah. Yeah, it was in bad taste, but Gray had to do it. It was part of his MO.
Part of the job. Got to do it. Someone's got to wear it.
I think just Pete probably felt embarrassed enough and just didn't want to hear or, talk about it or be asked about it. I think if that happened now, I think there would have been more sympathy. And I think like what everybody says on this network and what I always hear is like, hey, hopefully he gets in before he dies. And now, no. So, yeah, he probably just felt embarrassed. And then, Bug Silly was still the commissioner of the league at the time. And there was probably like a rule on the ban where it's like, hey, as long as I'm commissioner,
right,
he'll never get in no matter what.
I
don't
feel
care
like
what he does.
Giamatti or Vincent may have said that, like, as long as I'm commissioner, this guy's never going to get into the Hall of Fame.
Probably both did. both kept that stance going and just kept going. And that's what I was not hoping for, where he would die before he got in.
Same. I think every baseball fan is in mutual agreement.
But it's just irony. Hey, now you can bet on baseball as a fan. And then we've seen players get in trouble. Well, one didn't get in trouble, but one should have got in trouble having someone bet on baseball around him. But it's just funny how, now betting is everywhere. And I would have thought maybe once that happened, it was like, hey, okay, we need to forgive him. We need to put him in before he does pass. So yeah, it just stung. And at the time, it was just a different era too, where I think people wanted to keep the embarrassment on someone who made a mistake, and I think that's what happened in that situation.
James, the main thing that's been kind of, and I said I was kind of like ticked off when I heard this news, is this very tone deaf, I think disrespectful statement from Major League Baseball on their social accounts announcing Pete Rose's passing. Major League Baseball put out a picture of Pete in his early days with the Reds, and obviously it says Pete Rose, 1941 to 2024. The official caption, this is from the official MLB Instagram account. This is their statement about Pete Rose's passing. Major League Baseball extends their deepest condolences to Pete Rose's family, his friends across the game, and the fans of his hometown of Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Montreal, and beyond, who admired his greatness, grit, and determination on the field of play. May he rest in peace. How in the world as a league, despite I know what has happened, James, and viewers out there watching, but how in the hell can you not mention any of the accolades he racked up despite the junk off the field? That is the most bland, boring, disrespectful, distasteful statement I've ever read about someone passing, who, again, I know there's skeletons in the closet, James, but that is the most embarrassing thing for a league like baseball to put out, that one of the single greatest players of his generation, regardless of what happened in their personal lives, you can't acknowledge the games played appearances, the at-bats records, the hits record. Such a utterly disrespectful, distasteful, putrid statement put out by Major League Baseball. James, do you agree?
Yeah, it's another loss for MLB. First, when you read extends its deepest condolences to his family.
Are you sure about that, or are you just saying it to save face?
That's what it is. It's almost like, okay, I hate going political, but it's like, let's just say one side, understands that the other side's, candidate's mother died or wife died. They're going to put out a statement just like this, where it's like, hey, we know we hate you, or we can't be on the same side as you, but we have to put this out there that we're sorry for what happened today and we're thinking about you. This is what it sounds like, or reads like here. It's just they have that wall still up there basically against him, and the whole league office knows it, where they can't show a highlight video. They can't show the numbers like you mentioned.
Yeah, I don't think MLB Network was even allowed to announce it, let alone even, or did they? I'm not sure.
I didn't even know. Oh, I forgot to look. Oh, because I was wondering
something, but part of me is like, I think that the league told them no,
giving them a tumble finger. That's what I was gonna look and see but I got home so late and I was watching something else. I was like, hey, I wonder, since they still have that ban on him, like, are they gonna, show any of his highlights or do anything like that?
Games, some old interviews.
With someone as big as this, I know we're in the playoff season. I think you still have to sneak, like, let's just say,
you still, I think, can preempt some of your repeat coverage now that we're entering the playoffs, to do like something for Pete Rose.
That's what I would have liked to see. I don't think it's going to happen, though. If you see a statement like this, they're not going to overblow it. They're just going to mention it a little bit, and then
I think it's more distasteful that the Baseball Hall of Fame put out a statement giving their sympathies to Pete Rose too today.
I figured they would, but could not go overboard or could not
I
do
think
the
they
right
actually
thing.
listed his accomplishments, but it was a very, I think, shorter statement than what the league front office put out today.
Well, you just wonder what they'll do with Barry Bonds. I mean, they'll show his highlights, but the Hall of Fame will give it that treatment, definitely. I know he was a polarizing figure. You know, he didn't have the best of marriages. He didn't have the best of relationships with his teammates. I think the game just put a strain on his mind. The way he grew up,
Oh,
you know,
for
his
sure.
father being the way he was just the way of the times back then. I know Johnny, you know, even Rose pissed off Johnny Bench at one point. But I think after a while they all got together. They get together at one point in
Reconciled at some
Cincinnati.
point in time, yeah.
Yeah, I think he mentioned one thing to Rachel Nichols. I think Rachel posted on her Instagram today was the interview with Pete Rose sometime last decade, I want to say, when she was at CNN, and she mentioned, Rose mentioned, hey, it feels kind of like prison, and then getting a little bit of freedom, then going back into the cell, with the way that the Reds would bring him out for
Alumni
what?
weekend, the
Yeah,
anniversary of the World Series teams.
but the MLB doesn't acknowledge him. But the Reds can bring him in just for a day or two, but then
Like for a
realizing
weekend, and then he's got to go back into the de facto prison cell, basically.
that's what he was mentioning. So what I'll remember just about him again is just the play on the field, where it's like you want him leading. Like he was I think he's my first base when we had an all lineup team or whatever it was. I think I had Pete Rose first base, Joe Morgan second base, and catcher. I think I had Johnny Bench. So I had three of those Reds from the '70s, and I felt no regret about it. So
Same.
I know it's probably better catchers, bigger catchers, but I think Johnny was the best at his position. Pete Rose is an all-time hitter. Joe Morgan was so clutch. And I was sad about Joe Morgan passing, and I feel definitely the same about Pete Rose now.
Especially after Joe's time with John Miller on ESPN for all those years. Like, that was probably the best era of Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, the only one.
But again, folks, rough day in the sports world as we continue on here on C2C at night. Again, Dikembe Mutombo, NBA great, probably one of the best shot blockers of all time, passing away today at the age of 58 on this Monday. While in shocking news, Pete Rose, the hit king of Major League Baseball, 4,256, passed away per reports gathered from the Clark County, Nevada Medical Examiner's Office today at the age of 83. With that, James, in mind, the playoff field for MLB was not quite in full focus yet, entering Monday with two regular season games left on the schedule because of Hurricane Helene that came through the East Coast. Again, sending all of our best to our friends and family and those affected in the path of the storm that just came through. Mets and Braves played a doubleheader today down in Atlanta with three teams still alive, James, and two spots were left, with Arizona hanging on by a thread, needing a doubleheader sweep. Mets and Braves, though, split that doubleheader to knock out Arizona, while the Mets and Braves split. Mets win game one in just incredible fashion after putting up a 6-run inning in the top half of the seventh inning after trailing the game 3-0. They went up 6-3. The Braves take the lead with a 4-run bottom half of the inning with a base clearing double by Ozzie Albies, only for Francisco Lindor, bad back and all, to hit a go-ahead 2-run homer off old Padre friend Pierce Johnson to give the Braves or the Mets the lead. 8-7 to hold off Atlanta in game one. But then the Braves came back without Chris Sale, who's been ruled out, or who was scratched him to start because of back spasms. And now reports trickling in that he may not be available for their opening round series coming up starting on Tuesday. And it was the bullpen basically winning it for Atlanta in game two. Either way, James, New York and Atlanta in, Arizona out of the postseason mix, which also, James, marks the first time in 17 seasons that one or both of the World Series participants in the previous year did not qualify. Rangers and D-backs both out of the postseason party. But James, wild day to end the regular season, my friend. Overall thoughts on a great day of baseball to get us warmed up for the postseason with the Mets and Bravos splitting the double dip down in Truist Park today on Monday.
Yeah, I wish that I called out sick or didn't have to work today, but I feel like that for the whole week coming up.
Don't
But
we all
yeah,
feel that way?
yeah. When the Mets were down 3-0, it just felt like they were done after that 6th inning and 7th inning. I was listening to the Mets radio team with Howie Rose and the other guys, and it just felt like they were dead. And then that 6-run 8th inning just was amazing. And then the way that again the Braves got the 4 runs, and then Ozzie Albies, who can only bat right-handed, coming back from the injury. Usually he's a switch hitter. He had the big home run, and then they got the Lindor home run and the embrace after the game. I was listening to it, of course, but Brandon Nimmo mentioning how long he's been with the organization, how he's become a leader. He and Lindor embraced because of he was mentioning all the pressure Francisco Lindor has had on him since he was dealt to the Mets. It was just an embrace and just kind of relief to get back to the playoffs. When you think of the season that the Mets have had, where they just had a terrible start to it, and they just, hovered around 500 here and there. Then, August and September has been just a party. You've had Jose Iglesias come out of nowhere and just have base hits and everything. And, I know they want to send out Pete Alonso just in case he leaves in free agency. With the Braves, though, it feels like this has been their story all year long. The injuries hurt, no Austin Riley. I think there was talk of him maybe coming back, but the Braves kind of shut that down, that he's out for the season. So there's no way Austin Riley's coming back, and I think they certainly needed him. They needed Acuna Jr., of course, and others, but the Braves, their bullpen has kind of had this issue this year. They had Jimenez and Iglesias kind of blow the game there in the first game, but in the second game, they came up fine.
Props to Grant Hall, by the way, for kind of coming in on short notice with Sale going down with the back spasms and throwing 6 straight innings of ball today for Atlanta in Game 2.
Yeah, that was huge. If that doesn't happen, they're still playing because the Mets couldn't score. But I think they thinned their lineup a little bit because they didn't have to play their starters really. And it was. I think I've read something the Diamondbacks, that are out now. Of course, I think they lost 5 out of their last 7 going into
San Francisco and San Diego did a number on them going into the final week of the season. I mean, the Giants played home run derby 2 games in a row against them.
I think Matt Chapman even had an inside the park
homer. I think they hit 5 homers the following game. Like, it was a very brutal end of the year for Arizona.
The Diamondback bullpen struggled. Their starters, other from Zach Gallen, have been not as advertised. And remember, that was the 2 free agent signings. Getting Montgomery back, and he hasn't been
getting Rodriguez.
Same. Rodriguez has been hurt pretty much the whole year, so you're bringing him in, and he's not the same. He's not the same from the Tigers. So that really hurt the Diamondbacks, and not hitting as well. Marte kept getting hurt. Christian Walker hurt as well. They really needed that Tommy Pham kind of a figure there. I mean, Carroll didn't have the same year as his rookie year. So that just hurt the Diamondbacks. I mean, they had a great stretch where it looked like they were going to, take a spot, but they just got cold at the wrong time, and the Mets just got hot at the right time. The Braves just stayed within themselves, and they almost have like a Brave way with Snicker being there all those years, 30-plus years in the organization. Just kept the boat, together without the holes, in the water getting through. That's what it felt like with the Braves all year long. And you know what this reminded me of as well? That Raider Charger game in, I think it was 21-22, where the same scenario happened. If they tied, both are in. And then I think Cincinnati was out or something. No, Pittsburgh would have been out. But instead, the Raiders won. They went for the win. And the Chargers were out, and I think Pittsburgh got in. So that reminded me of the same way of this doubleheader. You know, and the thing is, too, for both of these teams, it's a big disadvantage, you know, for both of them having to play tomorrow right away after playing the doubleheader.
In different time zones.
Yeah, New York going to Milwaukee, and then Atlanta having to go cross country here to San Diego. So it's just, I wonder how rusty they're going to be in both of their game ones.
We have a quick comment here, James, from one of my good friends. My man Brad Kelly writes, "Guys, look, I know I might be biased because I'm from Atlanta and it's my hometown and my team. But guys, don't you think that the Braves deserve some kind or all kinds of credit or props for getting to the postseason after a snake-bitten, cursed season of injuries to so many major pitchers and players? Is this perhaps the best managing job and team triumph of this 2024 season?" James, I would probably say yes in regards to the team triumph. I think that the best managing job will probably go to Pat Murphy in Milwaukee. But I think, though, that Brian Snickard, I think him, Schilt, and Murphy will be getting manager of the year votes because it's tough, James, for a team to manage so many injuries. And again, they lost Spencer Strider, James, week 1 on April 5th to Tommy John. They've been losing, again, they lost Ronald Acuna to a ripped ACL again earlier in the season. They've lost everyone at some point in time seems like they have been missing some sort of time with injuries. But James, what do you think about Brad's commentary, though, regarding maybe best managing job done by a team, and could this perhaps be the best triumph of the 2024 regular season?
I don't think so, because I expected the Braves to be in it, no matter what. And I think the way that I ended like my last statement, I think gave all the praise to Snicker and the organization. So I definitely feel the same way. I also want to, give the Royals a shout out to their manager as well. What they did was great too. They went out and spent some money on pitchers, right?
Lugo, Waka, getting Cole Reagans.
Yeah, and the Braves did this via trade with Chris Sale. You didn't know what he was going to be, though.
Yes.
I mean,
they took a flyer on him, and it panned out until what sounds like up until today because of those back spasms.
And just think about it. Without him, without those 14, 15 wins, they're not in this position. And also Ronaldo Lopez. That was a low-key free agent signing. Again, I wish I had him on the Angels, but he's been a godsend for the wounded Braves starters. So I just expected it with Snicker holding down the fort and saying, hey, we're just going to stay with our ways, and who's ever available to play, give it your all. I think bolstering up that bullpen a couple years ago really helped as well. So just an organization keeping it in there. You just felt like, the fans are going to be behind them. They have a brave way. And again, I feel the same way about it. I just don't know if it's the biggest triumph or the best triumph or managing job. I think you got to also give credit, though, to, Kansas City, Detroit. I don't think anybody had those teams doing what they've done. But maybe in the National League, if you're looking at someone keeping it together and you're looking at the opposite, right? San Francisco, Arizona petering out. Everybody was high on the Cubs after a little bit. That fell down. Who else? I and whoever else out there in the Central that we thought was cool at one time. You could put the Mets into this too, with
For sure.
What's his name? Carlos
Mendoza.
Mendoza. I think he's had a tough time as well. Having no name starters pretty much. in their
Or journeymen
rotation.
like Sean Manaea, David Patterson, Jose Quintana.
Yeah, and guys you wouldn't think would be anything, and they answered the calls. Each start this year, it's. I think just talent wise, Atlanta would have more talent despite the injuries. But yeah, I don't want to rank anything like that, but I
For
just want
sure.
to give credit to the Braves organization for just staying with themselves. And you just knew eventually they would get in. I mean, the broadcaster, I was listening or watching the last 3 innings of the game two, and I was like, everybody hold your breath. It's going to happen. Don't worry. I think it was the first time you felt like with the Braves where it's like, hey, it feels like they're not going to get in the way that, game one went.
Right.
But I think, what is it now, the 7th straight year that they got in?
Yes.
So they have a standard. It's okay. That's who they are, and they're going to stay like that, I hope.
Yeah, Brad, I mean, I think it's a great point because I think it's tough for any team, Brad, in any sport to navigate the woes of injuries and losing streaks and whatnot. And I think that we certainly have given Brian Snicker his flowers, my dude, because, again, I think it's tough for any manager or coach to keep a team kind of in check or on the right track when things are going haywire. And I think that, like James said, I think we all expected the Braves to get to the postseason, again, division winner or a wild card. And I still think that the best team triumph for a managing job probably goes to Pat Murphy, who will probably win National League Manager of the Year, though I'm sure that Mendoza might get votes, Schilt might get votes, Roberts might get votes, but I think it would probably go to Pat Murphy. But certainly, I think it is a good triumph, though, for them to get back there, but also with everyone like next man up mentality is what I'm getting at here when it comes to the Atlanta Braves. But Brad, thanks for the commentary here this evening. All right, James, let's look over the upcoming Wild Card Series, my friend. It's a best of 3 with the highest seed hosting all 3 games beginning on Tuesday. First up on Tuesday, James, will be the number 6 seed Detroit Tigers snapping a 10-year playoff drought against the number 3 seed and AOS Division champion Houston Astros in the 11:30 a.m. time slot in the Pacific time zone, followed up by the number 5 seed KC Royals back in the playoffs for the first time since the World Series victory in 2015 at the number 4 seed and number 1 wild card seed Baltimore Orioles in the 1 o'clock hour, while the Mets hook up with the Brewers. It is the number 6 seed Mets and the number 3 seed NL Central Division champion Brew Crew. 6 versus 3, while the Bravos are in San Diego to take on the Padres. 5 versus 4 at what will be a raucous Petco Park in San Diego. And should mention, yours truly will be there for his first playoff game in 18 years in person. So with that in mind, James, what sticks out here, my man? Is it between these 4 series, my man? There's so many ways we can go here. Tigers break that 10-year drought. Astros back on top in the American League West. Royals after a 100-loss season back in the postseason mix. Baltimore trying to get back or at least improve off of their 2-game sweep last year at the hands of the Rangers. The Mets getting in late. The Brewers, again, had that division locked up from the word go. Basically, it seemed like this year. Braves getting in, but again, pitching depth pretty much right now, maybe in a way handcuffed without Chris Sale. Again, the Padres, their first 90-win season since 2010. James, what do you like? Who do you like in these 4 series coming up here starting on Tuesday?
All these 8 teams, I love the stories of all of them. Detroit, again, breaking that 10-year playoff drought. Now the Angels have that honor of having the longest playoff drought.
But still have not lost 100 games in franchise history.
Should have.
Look at the positives, my friend. Got to look at the positives.
What are those? Yeah, Detroit
not
getting
losing 100 games for the first time in club history.
That's always next year. I'm so happy, for AJ Hinch and going back to Houston. That's a storyline right there. I mean, you're taking a ragtag Detroit team that's pretty young. Didn't they trade Jack Flaherty to the Dodgers?
Yes,
they
and
were
they
sellers.
almost thought about trading Tarek Skubal, but they held on to him.
I think maybe the asking price was too high for others too. It's just amazing to think how your fortunes can change in 2 months. Like I mentioned, what were they? August 10th, 55-63. Then they went on a run August 11th all the way to the postseason here. It's just they've had an amazing run. Houston, they were dead after 2 months, and I just kept saying and telling people they have the
Don't count
pedigree.
them out.
Yeah, if they get their starters back. I mean, we thought Valdez was out for the year at one point, but once they got him and the other arms back and the bats back, they made it. They made a run at Seattle and overtook them. Seattle floundered it like they always do. So I never counted out Houston. I want to be the one to say that. Kansas City, yeah, getting in for the first time since the World Series in 2015. I love that story. I've been high on them ever since the offseason moves. I didn't think they would make the playoffs, but I thought maybe they would make a run at the wild card but fall short. But they got the third one, no problem. Again, losing one of their players kind of hurts this year. Pasquantino, that kind of sucks for them because then they would be a full lineup. But it's great to see Salvi Perez back in the playoffs. Baltimore, it felt like snuck in this year. I think because I'm thinking about last year, how they won 101 games. They won the East. This year, they struggled. They had a bunch of injuries. They bring in Corbin Burns, traded for him, I should say. The lineup wasn't as potent other from Gunnar Henderson. Mullins kept being in and out because of injury. Aldi Rochman being okay this year. It feels like the Baltimore is just, limping into the playoffs. It feels like it's totally
Fair
different from
observation.
last year. Because I watched, both of those teams this year pretty closely, just because Kansas City, like you mentioned, the starters that they brought in, I thought, okay, that's something. That's not nothing. Kansas City doesn't usually spend like this, and with the young core offensively, MJ Melendez and Bobby Witt Jr. having his first chance of postseason play, I cannot wait to see him tomorrow. For the American League, though, I got to go with the both home teams. But I'm hoping for the opposite. I think that would be chaos. But I think Houston wins. I think that would be a 2-game sweep, and then I think Baltimore. I think it goes 3, and eventually Baltimore wins the third game, of course. But I think that goes 3. National League, you got to admire what the Mets have done the last 2 months and how much of a party it's been. I think Milwaukee wants revenge from last year, being ousted by the Diamondbacks in the same series.
And they got swept too, which is even worse.
I forgot about that, yeah. I think it's a 3-game series, but I'm going to go with the Mets. I think they continue this run that they've been on. Feels like the Brewers, even though they've had a great year and Willie Adames or whatever.
I was going to say, James, it kind of feels like, and I think this is with any team, once they clinch, they kind of go into a lull. And the Brewers just looked very uninterested in playing playing the season out. And they just looked very flat and didn't really look impressive. But again, that's probably because of the hangover of them clinching the division title so early in the season, or in September, I should say.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that too, because they were on MLB Network at one point on the weekend. But it's always a thing, and I know that feeling with the Dodgers is like that, where it's like, hey, if you don't win your division by so much, you'll have to play more games later, and you'll be more in a rhythm. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Mets. I feel like that, and San Diego, I feel like is gonna sweep Atlanta in 2 games, but they'll be intriguing games. But I think San Diego eventually, they just have too much. Their rotation is really good for this series. Atlanta's coming in banged up and also tired from the doubleheader today. So, yeah, I'm going to go San Diego in a sweep.
Yeah, I think, James, it's hard, I think, to call anything a sweep, though, when it's playoff baseball. Again, one bounce off of a rock in the infield grass, and it could change the whole complexion of the series. And just kind of looking at it, skimming through, after Tarek Skubal, who's the main guy for the Tigers? I think that Houston will probably take that. I'd say it probably in a sweep, maybe in 3. I think after Skubal, there's not much there. Yeah, maybe Casey Mize, but I'm not. I don't know. Yeah, I think I would probably go with Houston wins that series. I don't know about the Royals though. With the starters again, Baltimore is going to throw Corbin Burns in Game 1, setting the tone. Baltimore's got great home field as well when the Orioles are playing good. So I'm with you. I like Houston and like Baltimore. I know you're going with the Mets, but at the end of the day, I still think though that the Brewers are going to take the series. Um, I just think, though, that the Mets are road weary and so is Atlanta, but I don't think that they're going to be sweeps. I think all these probably go to 3. I like San Diego. Again, bias maybe. Who cares? Again, Atlanta doesn't need this. The Brewers don't need this. The Mets don't need it. San Diego deserves it and needs it more than anyone else in the playoff field. That includes the Dodgers and Phillies, who are waiting in the wings for both sides. I just think, James, that with Atlanta not having Chris Sale after Max Fried, who's your next option? Are you going to throw Schwellenbach on 2 days rest in Game 2? I have checked that they still have not announced the starter yet for Game 1. The Padres set their rotation today. It'll be Michael King starting in Game 1, Joe Musgrove in Game 2, and if need be, Dylan Cease will throw Game 3. And oh, by the way, first guy out of the bullpen, Yu Darvish is going to be the first guy out of the bullpen in any of these games for San Diego. And, of course, that Padre bullpen, James, I know they kind of, in a way, treaded some water late in the season, but still, I think a lot of pundits out there are riding with San Diego because of the bullpen, and it might be the nastiest one in all of Major League Baseball. But I like Houston and Baltimore. I think Milwaukee is going to probably get some revenge here in this round, and the Padres will squeak it out, too, against Atlanta. I know that the Braves have a pretty good lineup, though. But I think though that with the pitching being compromised, though, with Sale not per reports not being able to throw in the wild card round again, maybe he does in fact do so. But I think after Max Fried, I don't know who's the next guy in line. Again, is it going to be a Schwellenbach on 2 days rest in Game 1 or after Game 1 concludes? So I like I think all the higher seeds move on, James.
Yeah, the one thing I'll mention as well, I remember last year the 2 day games that the Rays had and hardly anybody showed up. I'm hoping we don't have that case this year with these.
I don't think we will,
games.
honestly. I really don't. I think
because these four home games are good.
Yeah, I think Houston, their fan base always shows up come playoff time. Baltimore is electric, though. Again, you hear Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes every other big moment. Milwaukee has always been a very great baseball market. And, of course, the Padres, James, we talked about it last show again, 3.31 million fans in like 60 sellouts this season. And Michael King even said to the media today, I can't wait to see this, this crowd come the playoffs tomorrow. And again, I'll be there for Game 1 tomorrow against the Braves. And by the way, just again, checking up on a few things, the Braves, again, at this juncture at 11:33 in the evening on Monday, have still not announced a starting pitcher yet for Game 1. I am sure, though, James, it'll be Max Fried for Atlanta against King in Game 1. But again, King, Musgrove, and Cease, Games 1, 2, and 3 for the Padres. And again, Yu Darvish, first man out of the bullpen for the Padres, come the first round of the wild card series. With that, James, over to you, my friend. Week 4 of the NFL season in the books after another double dip on Monday night. James, what stuck out to you for week 4? Again, some upsets. The Chiefs still own the Chargers and whatnot going forth, my man. But James, what do you got for us for your week 4 wrap-up for the NFL season?
Yeah, the slowest 5 minutes ever.
That game is felt slow, man, across the board.
It all started Thursday night. The Cowboys held on to beat the Giants, but you just felt ugly about that win, sloppy about that win. If you were the Cowboys, it started off good at first, and then
kind of left the door open and let the Giants come back into the fray.
Yeah, that's what I felt like with the Cowboys. It's a divisional game. I understand that. Andy Dalton, played his old team, but the Bengals held on to get their first win and defeat the Carolina Panthers. I was kind of expecting that. You figure the Panthers the Bengals would not go 0-4. That's kind of a death sentence if you go 0-4 to your season. Falcons, I saw Young Ho Koo have a game-winning field goal against their divisional foe, the Saints, on Sunday to help the Falcons win. That was after a pretty
blatant PI call, and he made it from the damn logo at midfield.
That's a big logo too, but still, that's a big kick. And Koo, he's become that clutch kicker, and I think they even extended him to keep him around, and he's just been amazing. He's just someone you can key on in clutch times. Another divisional game in the South, the Texans hold on to beat the Jags. It was kind of up and down for the Jags, and Texans held on. And man, that seat is getting hotter for Doug Peterson every damn game. I know we were talking about that last week, but it's true. There was kind of a rainstorm going on around the northern east part. That grounded the Jets. The defense for the Broncos, I guess you have to give them credit too, but maybe the elements for Rodgers not doing as well. The Broncos hold on 10-9. Nix gets his first touchdown pass thrown.
Yet he threw for -7 yards in the first half.
Yeah, that was weird to hear
Horrible.
about. It's the baby steps, I think, for all these rookie quarterbacks. The Vikings shocked the hell out of people. I know it was Jordan Love's first game, and he was very, very rusty. Vikings held on to win just by 2, 31-29. That's an odd score. But Sam Darnold, yes, is 4-0 for the first time probably ever in his history, in his career.
Unbelievable.
To go to Green Bay too and win, that's always tough from Minnesota. They don't usually do that, especially early in the season. The Colts hold on. Justin Fields did Justin Fields things, not this year, but in the years past. I think he had a fumble where he was doing
changing the play call, and they hiked the ball.
That, and then he had one where he was running away from a rush, and he was playing Twister with himself and lost the ball through his uprights, his legs, and the Colts went on to take it. Colts hold on. Joe Flacco came back, not once but twice in this game, and led the Colts back. And Anthony Richardson, for all he does,
I was just going to interject, James. Say, are you concerned about Anthony Richardson and how he plays the game?
I was just about to mention that, how it seems like every game, oh my God, he does this, but he gets hurt, or he takes a hit and he gets hurt, and it happened. Or he had a fumble lost and he got hurt on the same play. I know he tried to come back and play, but he got hurt again, and Flacco came in to hold it down. Shout out to 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Caleb Williams didn't do much, but the Bears, with their defense, hold on to beat the Rams, who are, again, injured all over the place. I know it was a triumph last week, but you kind of feel like there's so much pressure on Matthew Stafford.
Oh, there has to
hold on.
There has to be.
I hate how the NFL is with teams one week and another week, and this was the microcosm game of the week here, with the Eagles just shrinking against the Bucs, and the Bucs rising up again. Jalen Hurts had an awful game with, I think he had 4 turnovers, I want to say, but
they clobbered them again for like the second time in a row dating back to the postseason.
Yeah, that's true. So it's just weird how the Bucs had their issues with the Broncos, but easily beat the Eagles. I hate this game.
Make it make sense, people.
The Commanders and Jalen Daniels have fun.
Wow.
They destroy the Cardinals 42-14. A lot of Commander fans were there. It's funny how that works in Atlanta or in Arizona. Got to give a shout out to the Commanders. The running game, passing game, everything was going. Defensively, they did well.
Cliff Kingsbury beating his old employer too.
I should have mentioned that. Thank you. There was a lot of that going on with Nathaniel Hackett, but the Broncos got the win there over the Jets. Chargers had a 10-0 lead, but gave it up to the Chiefs. You could blame
had a 10-0 lead.
You can blame the refs, you can blame whatever, but the Chiefs hold on. But they did lose another prime weapon, Rashid Rice.
Ugly injury. Ugly.
Ran into, or Mahomes ran into him. It always seems like off an interception, an injury happens to either a quarterback or another offensive player on those plays, where just something happens because they're not used to pursuing and tackling. The Raiders hold on to beat the Browns, and the dog pound came to Vegas. That was for sure. But their defense did it without Max Crosby. Tyree Wilson actually looked great. Without Devontae Adams, the Raiders ran the ball well. Got to give a shout out to Matheson for having a great game for the Raiders. So they hold on and go 2-2. I don't think I should ever watch a Sunday night game ever again. I got so disappointed in the rain. Josh Allen had his issues. He was actually benched, I think, in the fourth. The Ravens held on to win 35-10. And just think about it. The first play of the game for Baltimore's offense, Derrick Henry took it 83 yards for a touchdown. And that's when you thought,
I think.
80. That's right, 87 yards. And
that's out of the cannon.
He's one of my favorite players, and I always used to think he was a robot. The way he just runs, it just looks like computerized. The way that he just runs the ball, it's like Predator, or Alien versus Predator. He looks like that with the dreadlocks, and it just looks like you're not gonna stop him. And he just ran through the Bills. Lamar did his thing as well, but I think Josh Allen kind of showed, even though they started off 3-0, that he's missing those big key receivers. I know the running game's been well, but you can kind of tell his receivers let him down. His offensive line let him down, but the receivers were dropping balls. He kind of had a dig at Stephon Diggs earlier in the week after last week's win, and I think that came back to beat or hurt Josh Allen. The Titans again defeat Miami on a Monday night. Remember last year they had a Monday night doubleheader late in the season, and it was the same two teams, and the Titans held on to beat the Dolphins. But this time, without Tua, the Titans, even without Will Levis, who had to leave the game on his throwing shoulder, he tried to reach for a first down and landed wrongfully. Mason the white-nosed Rudolph. I did not think we were ever going to see him again. He came in and he held the fort down, but the running game did well for the Titans, and they won easily. And I think there is tremendous doubt right now with the Dolphins. I was watching Mike McDaniel's press conference, and he just looks defeated. He really did. And then a rematch of week 2 of last season with the Seahawks and Lions. The Lions debuted their black and blue helmet uniform combo.
Sweet looking combo.
Yeah, it reminded me, of course, when they had the black uniforms back in the 2000s. This game was an absolute shootout. The Lions ran the ball very well in the first half and threw well. The Seahawks did the opposite in their ways of scoring, but it was a definite shootout. Geno did well, threw 4 touchdowns and over 380 yards, but Jared Goff was 18 for 18. It's the most over 15 passes. It's the most anyone has gone perfect for passing. 18 for 18. It was like for 282 yards, I think, and 2 touchdowns. But he actually caught a touchdown pass, his second of his career, from Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the Lions just held on 42-29. But that would have been the game to watch today, and I was listening to some of it. I just couldn't believe the scoring, what was going on. Overall, it's just like it's one of these weeks in the NFL you just don't know what's going to happen, and you just hope your team doesn't have injuries. And when they do, you don't know how the replacement's going to come in and do. I expect the same thing next week. And you know what I can't wait for is the Jets and Vikings Sunday morning, 6:30. Yeah, I cannot wait for that. I'm going to be up for that. I never thought I would see a Sam Darnold game I would wake up for that early.
That didn't involve USC.
Even still, yeah, not 6:30 a.m. Yeah, I want to see how he plays against his old team. Now, I know he doesn't have many teammates from the time he was with the Jets, but I love those revenge factor games. I love that so much. And one more thing about college football, I know, or a couple more things, but USC held on to beat Wisconsin. It was weird having them at the Coliseum at 12:30. And I should have went to the game, but I heard it was sold out.
Makes no damn sense.
It doesn't look right, man. But USC held on to win, and then damn, I was so happy I stayed home to watch that Georgia-Alabama game, and that I stuck with it. It was 31-9, I think, at one point.
31-7 at the half, I think.
31-7. Thank you. And Georgia just chipped away in that second half. Even took the lead, but Alabama came back, striking back. And I wasn't trying to show my emotion on deck, but I think I had a little yell because I couldn't believe what the hell was going on. But that felt like I think like John Riley mentioned, like a Super Bowl type of game today, on Saturday. It just felt like one of those. It's the rare occasion where it felt like college football was over NFL this year for the most exciting football game. I think that takes the cake, that Saturday game. I could not believe what the hell was going on. That was so much fun.
So there, folks, is James Gonzalez's football wrap for week 4 of the NFL season and some tidbits from the college game. Again, just weird seeing Wisconsin playing SC. And it's also weird, James, seeing that damn Big Ten logo on the field at United Airlines Field at the LA Memorial Coliseum. It just, I don't want to, I'm not going to go there. You all know how I feel about it, so I won't go there any further. With that, James, the NBA will tip off the preseason coming up here later on in the week on October 4th, I believe, is when games do begin. Of course, James, the Clippers will come to San Diego next week to play the Brooklyn Nets at the new Front Wave Arena in your neck of the woods in Oceanside, California. James, as the preseason does get close, any early expectations for the in the NBA coming up here in 24-25?
Injuries will be a big thing. Yeah, I'm hoping to get to that game. It's a problem because I don't get off till an hour after the game starts. I can have fun and see Ben Simmons sit on the sidelines, or
just like you.
Yeah, but this is usually a time where he balls out. Is usually in preseason
with all the G leaguers and bench guys playing beefed up minutes.
And another thing I remember from the last couple of years where he would play an international team in Brooklyn, and that's when he's showing off or whatever. But he never plays, of course, the regular season. Man, I don't know what to expect this year from so many teams, but I can give a little breakdown.
Yeah,
it's a Celtics world until I think someone knocks them off. I would guess
fair comparison
for the Atlantic.
Fair thoughts, I should say.
The Atlantic Division. I mean, I hate that Knicks trade. It happened late Friday or Saturday. I can't remember. No, late Friday night, I think. But Karl Anthony Towns and him being soft, that won't work in New York. He better show up and show out for the Knicks crowd. I mean, losing DiVincenzo to
Minnesota,
the Timberwolves.
Julius Randle's also going there too.
Yeah, I don't like Randle there. I think that's going to be a weird mix. But that's Ant's team now, and you could tell that the change of the guard was happening.
I kind of agree that it felt like it was a changing of the guard this postseason, where Anthony Edwards was, James, you said it though. I mean, he was your guy throughout the postseason, and it really felt that way as I think the year prolonged and the Wolves kept getting better. Was that it's not about Cat, this is about Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, he's the man now, and I love watching him play. I think the funny part, I didn't even know about it until today, watching our show, our favorite YouTube show, that the Celtics are looking to sell the team. And they made all those extensions or whatever, but it wouldn't be the first time the Celtics were sold and traded, for the Clippers or the Buffalo Braves. The Sixers, I'm looking at them because I want to see how Paul George and how he'll mesh with Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey just got the other keys to the other car of the Sixers. Last year, and he had a breakout party with Embiid, and now you're bringing George to take away from both of their shot attempts. So I'm wanting to see how that works out.
Part of me is wondering, James, when in fact things don't go right, the George and the Embiid alpha males clonk heads the first time.
That is going to be the big key. The Central, I think it's still all about Milwaukee and Indiana. Cleveland, I want to see them break out and do better, but
James,
I'm not
would you
expecting
say
it.
it's fair if we went Indy, then Milwaukee, and then Cleveland? Because I think the
I want
Pacers
to.
kind of, I think, are beginning to kind of become that team. I know the Bucks still have Giannis, but I think if he goes down and Middleton goes down again like this past season, the Bucks are in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like, ever since that playoff loss last year, Indiana's taken the reins of that division. They've held the antlers up of the Bucks and said, "Look what I got." Bulls and Pistons. It's going to be an ugly
Ouch.
year, along with the Nets and the
Pistons will
Raptors.
go for 30 straight losses next season.
Please, I hope. I hope so. I mean, I don't even know what the hell they're doing there. Um, Same thing with the Wizards and the Hornets in the Southeast Division. They're just playing out the seasons. I mean, it's a waste for the Hornets to even come back to the NBA.
Do
It
we go
really
Miami
was.
maybe is the favorite from the Southeast, or are you looking at Orlando?
I love Orlando. I love what they've been able to do. They're on that trajectory to even climb up higher. And I'm just smiling from ear to ear because of what
Because
they
I
did
think,
last
James,
year.
it kind of feels like Miami's kind of getting old now a little
Yeah,
bit. Jimmy Butler's got a lot of mileage on those wheels. Bam is usually in and out of the lineup. I think I would go with Orlando kind of in a way in the Southeast right now.
I love what Orlando's building. Atlanta traded Murray to New Orleans, so Trey really doesn't have anyone except young players and the rookie they drafted uh, in the top three. So yeah, I think that's Orlando's division to win.
Orlando,
North,
Miami probably 1-2.
oh definitely. Northwest, I think it still
Woo!
goes through the Nuggets, even though the Thunder are right there. They're going to
Minnesota.
be a lot of fun. Minnesota, it's funny, again, we're going to mention Ant and how they're going to be and how much fun, he's going to.
Yeah, I think it's probably Denver, Minnesota, Oklahoma City. But honestly, James, I think that is a very interchangeable division. It could be Denver, could be the Wolves if they make this work without Cat. If OKC captures the proverbial pun intended lightning in a bottle for the upcoming season, maybe. And then you've got Portland and
Utah.
Utah fighting for the breadcrumbs.
Yeah, I love the trade that the Thunder made, and you can tell Josh Giddey just didn't really fit with the
Did
Thunder
not fit the
after a
puzzle with
while.
Shea and the guy and the other casting crew down there. I agree.
Too many ball handlers at one on the floor at one time. Trying to facilitate. Getting Alex Caruso adds that defensive punch they need and some
More
veteran
importantly,
leadership.
James, you just said it, veteran leadership.
I love that. When they made that trade, I'm like, okay, this is the conference finals now. This is where you have to get past the
You
second
got to
round.
progress. You got to
Yeah.
keep progressing.
And I want to see Denver because I hope Russell Westbrook doesn't ruin another Russell doesn't ruin another Denver team.
Nugget country, let's ride.
I hope he does well there. They've lost a lot of bench help, and I feel like Russell's going to help them, but I hope it doesn't hurt them. Pacific Division, man.
I was just going to say, James, if I could interject, why do I feel like the Pac division of the NBA is open season? Like this is anybody's division to win. Can the Suns, in a way, get KD healthy, get him and Book to work together in the upcoming season? Can Sacramento shrug off last season and get back to the postseason again? The Warriors are kind of in transition with them losing, Clay in that trade to Dallas. And I think, James, and I think I wrote this to Saw and Riley, I think the Lakers and Clippers are taking steps back in 2024-25.
All five of those teams will take step backs, it feels like. Yeah, this is already going on with the Warriors, where you just feel like their draft picks haven't worked out, their big men haven't worked out,
Kuminga
and that's
hasn't
really
really
hurt them.
panned out.
Before that, Wiseman, and he eventually got traded to Detroit. Yep. The changing of the guard there has been going on.
Curry's getting older.
That too. 36 or 7, whatever he
Losing
may be.
Clay.
I'm not even looking forward to the Clippers season. I know they're moving into the Intuit Dome, and they took pictures in media day like it was the yearbook photo. But they're going to take a step back. I feel like they pretty much have the same team intact, other from Paul George,
Paul George,
who
yeah.
willed
Zubac is
them.
back. Harden's back. Nick Batum's back. But James, here's my $1 million question for you, buddy. Yes or no? Time for Kawhi to retire.
No.
Despite all the knee problems, all the injuries, all the procedures he's had, him getting knocked off Team USA's roster while they were in Paris, you don't think it's time for him to maybe call it quits or reconsider his plans going forward?
No, it's too much money involved. The same thing with Tua, with his concussions. It's the same thing. There's too much money involved. He wants the money. He wants the attention, kind of, from a distance. I just think Paul George won in so many games last year, and they're going to miss that. They'll either be a first-round exit or they'll be a play-in team, and they'll be out the first game. I really feel like that. It's going to be like
probably
21.
7, 8, maybe 9 or 10 is probably. I'd say probably 9 or 10 at this rate. It sounds like.
That's what I'm saying.
Perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It will feel like 21 without Kawhi, in which the Pelicans came to LA and beat them. It's going to feel like that. The Lakers, I don't even know. It just depends on their health every year.
Theme song or Benny Hill theme song? Take your pick.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll listen to JJ Redick. AD.
Well, that's what I'm afraid of. And James, you brought up last Monday about how I'm so anti. You can't have family running a team. I'm anti first year head coach with no experience, and that's JJ Redick, and he fits the mold beautifully.
They always hire someone they know, and it kind of shoots them in the foot sometimes. But yeah,
they're going to be a playing team again, I think, if they're lucky.
Maybe 6 or 7. They'll take the Clippers spot, I would think. With the Suns, it feels like they didn't go out and get a point guard, and they have the same. I
think they're just running. I think their window is closing pretty damn quickly. I mean, I think when you get swept by the Wolves last season, or did they get swept? I think they get. Yeah,
they got swept.
And then, I think if you build off 2021, getting to the final and losing, then not getting back there kind of feels like it's unacceptable, I think, James. And now I think you got to make this work with D-Book and KD, or the Suns are in massive trouble.
How long before KD asks for a trade, has to leave?
Not just that, and I kind of hate to bring this up, James, because of a embattled, controversial former host on this network, but what if Devin Booker wants out of Phoenix after he's been there for almost 10 years of his career and he hasn't really done much except for one conference title?
Imagine it'd be like that Nets season where both of those stars won out and get traded out. That could happen in Phoenix this season. I love the DeMar trade to the Sacramento Kings. I think
that right there, kind of in a way, if DeMar is healthy, I probably lean to the Kings being the division champs in the Pac division for the NBA.
That's what I'm saying. I think he brings stability.
Sabonis, all the shooters Fox. They've got, De'Aaron Fox, who's been loyal to the soil up there. Kind of leaning a bit to the Kings to win that division this year in the NBA.
I would love that if the Clippers don't. I would love that just because stability, some veteran leadership, and then you could give him the ball. He could do his mid-range thing.
And not just that, James, and I kind of hate to, show the hometown bias, but kind of think Mike Brown, a USD alumnus, kind of in a way resurrected his career coaching Sacramento.
Yeah, they listen to him. they listen to him. That Southwest Division, it's I love the acquisition.
Sadly.
Yeah, I love that acquisition of the Spurs, getting Chris Paul just to work with Wemby, but it won't do anything for wins. I know they have Vassell, but they don't have much. They're still building in San Antonio. Then you have Houston. Everybody's wondering if they're going to lift off with all their young players, but I don't know if that's going to happen just yet.
Walk right into it. Way to go, James.
Yeah. Memphis, I know they took their team picture today. It looked like a yearbook photo. I don't think Zach Edey will make that much of a difference. And John Morant, it all depends if
he needs to be on the playing court this year and can't be having junk off the floor again, because that really wrecked Memphis last season.
And injuries too.
And they were crushed by injuries too. Yeah.
Yeah. That it's all on Ja. I think with New Orleans, if they have Ingram going well and Murray and Zion is healthy and playing and in shape, they can make a run for that 6th seed like they did last year. And Dallas.
Yeah, and I was going to say, James, I think Dallas is the front runner again. Kyrie and Luka has worked out, but now you add Klay Thompson.
That's going to be the most interesting thing, and I think we were going over some of the interesting games for the NBA schedule.
And I think it was when Dallas plays Golden State in November, I think, in San Fran.
I cannot wait for that game. I just want to see if Luka is able to, drive and kick out to Klay, and all Klay has to do is just stay in that corner and make threes and whatever the case is. I think it's going to be a pretty easy job for Klay hey, that's all you have to do. You don't have to do anything else. Defensively, he can bring something. They still have the bigs there, so Dallas will be good. I don't know if we'll do predictions for the finals, but it still feels like Boston's the favorite until somebody knocks them off.
I would agree. I mean, who really in that division scares you other than Boston? I mean, the Knicks might be like an outside. Philly, if they can work out through Embiid and George, and if they have any drama, no luck for Brooklyn and no luck for Toronto, sadly. So I think it's Boston. I would agree.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be fun for sure. And I still think, James, that I would probably put Indy just ahead of Milwaukee in that Central because I just think that the Pacers kind of had Milwaukee's number. And I think that, playoff recent track history does, in fact, come to fruition. With that, James, the NHL preseason hit the halfway mark on Tuesday for certain teams. But sadly, James, 2 potential season-ending injuries were suffered over the weekend by LA Kings defenseman Drew Doughty, who suffered an ankle injury while back checking against Vegas on Saturday at T-Mobile Arena. Drew kind of was coming down the right wing side, lost his footing, and happened to hit his left foot against the boards and kind of got it pinned against the player that he was defending. Appears to have broken his ankle. He's out for at least 10 weeks, maybe the entire season. And recently acquired Canadiens forward Patrik Laine, who was kind of in a way forced his hand out of Winnipeg and Columbus, had to enter the league's substance abuse program because of alcohol addiction problems he was having. Also had a very rugged knee-on-knee hit in their preseason game that may have jarred his knee or ripped his ACL. He's probably done for the season. So, James, 2 key cogs of 2 teams in the NHL losing players in the preseason. Now, James, Drew Doughty, though, is 35 years old. He's up there in age and maybe could have been on his way out after the season concluded, though. And then Patrik Laine, James, his first year in Montreal may already be over before it even starts this season because of the knee-on-knee hit he suffered. His teammates came to his defense, though, and began wailing away on the opposition. I believe one of their players got 27 penalty minutes for going after the player who took him out of the game. But, James, your overall stance, or not stance, but maybe just, James, some thoughts about, some unfortunate injuries happening in the preseason as the NHL gets close here in about roughly a week's time.
Man, luckily I watched that show today, or else I wouldn't know what the hell was going on in the NHL. But yeah, that cheap hit, that cheap shot hit, it seems like it happens in hockey the most. But the get back always seems like the most frugal, I should say, where there's always a revenge factor and it happens. I know it used to be a thing in the NFL. Somebody gives a cheap shot and then they go after their leg. But it seems like it happens in hockey a little bit more now. You can get away with things quicker, I guess. But that seems like a big loss. And Drew Doughty, he might be the only King left from that championship years, I'm guessing.
The only one that I recall that's left actually is team captain Anze Kopitar. He's the only. Those are the only 2 guys that are that are the holdovers from the last team who won 10 years ago.
That's okay. Those 2, I'm kind of shocked they're still there, but they paid them to stay, and I don't know if it's ruining their progress, but you have to have names to play in that market, I guess, and they've been there the longest. And yeah, like you mentioned, it felt like Doughty was on his way out anyway.
Yeah, 35 years old too, and all the wear and tear and all the injuries, and then sadly this happens on Saturday versus the Knights.
And I think the fans and the team kind of feels that too, where it's like, hey, feels like, and they're already going in the younger direction, and they're making the playoffs and all that, but it feels like in order to get even better, they might have to get rid of the older players. It happens in any sport for sure. But that Lane injury, that sounds huge for the team he's on.
Yeah, James, I recall one of the more notorious like knee-on-knee hits was Cam Neely, who was the Bruins team captain, I think, back in the late 80s, early 90s, and he missed an entire playoff series, I think, or the entire postseason after a guy went knee-on-knee as a retaliation factor for what had gone down in a recent game. And Cam even said, I'm lucky I didn't blow my knee out because my career could have been over. But again, folks, Patrick Laine of the Canadiens, Drew Doughty of the LA Kings, both potentially sidelined for the duration of the season before it even starts, sadly, because of two very unfortunate preseason injuries suffered in games. Again, Laine went knee-on-knee versus the Maple Leafs, I believe, on Saturday, while Drew Doughty went ankle first into the boards versus Vegas on Saturday at T-Mobile Arena. With that, James, in mind, the WNBA is also in their postseason as the league semifinals roll on into Tuesday. The defending champion Aces will be in New York to play the Liberty in Game 2, while the Sun and Lynx play Game 2 in Minneapolis also on Tuesday, with the winners moving on to the WNBA Finals coming up in about a week's time or so. But, James, speaking of tone-deaf responses, and I really hate to bring up off-the-court stuff like this, but, James, you might have seen, though, but at the duration of the regular season, the WNBA had to put out a formal press release and statement regarding regarding what's been prolonged over this season. That is the new wave of fans, though, that there's been a 48% jump in attendance, though. But, James, this was a very piss-poor and late and tardy to the party response by the WNBA front office. I'm trying to pull up their statement. But, James, I think you probably expected a lot of this nonsense to happen. But this happened, though, and this was actually after the fact. 5 days ago, the league put out the following statement after, keyword here is after, the elimination of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. The statement from the league reads that the WNBA is a highly competitive league with some of the most elite athletes in the world. While we welcome a growing fan base, the league will not tolerate racist, derogatory, or threatening comments made about players, teams, and anyone affiliated with the league. League security is actively monitoring threat-related activity and will work directly with teams and arenas to take appropriate measures to include involving law enforcement as necessary. And the top comment comes from my great friend Daniel Shoemaker, who writes, "Too little, too late." James, we talked about this at the very onset of the season. This was in wake of the fouls on Caitlin Clark that were done by the Chicago Sky, Kennedy Carter, Angel Reese, Dejanay Carrington of the Sun, who again, unintentionally poked her in the eye in Game 2. That also, James, prompted a massive press release from the WNBA Players Association, who also, James, absolutely shredded USA Today beat writer Christine Brennan, who is working on a book about Caitlin Clark's career already, about bias towards Caitlin, inappropriate questions being asked of Dejanay Carrington and some of the black players in the league. And also, James, and I think Riley said as well on the Monday show for him and Hacksaw, people feel so damn entitled nowadays that they can buy a ticket and feel like they can chirp whatever is on their mind, regardless of what of who's around them, and it's been a lot, James. And I kind of, in a way, James, sadly thought this stuff was going to happen because of Caitlin Clark, because of Angel Reese, how it was the whole, you can't see me, Angel pointing at the ring finger when they played in the title game, Iowa knocking out LSU in this year's Final Four, and people have been so damn divided on this issue, and we've said it's about, race, it's about the new version of Magic and Bird. They're in the same conference, they're in the same, area between Indiana and Chicago and so on and so forth. And I think, James, that I kind of sadly thought that this stuff was going to happen. But for the league to put that statement out, though, at the end of a season, timed to when Caitlin Clark's team makes their exit stage right, that is a piss-poor look for a league that I have backed since 8th grade to take that stance when one of the star players, new, older, and different, gets knocked out. You're catering to them only. Where was that back when Kennedy Carter's getting death threats and people show up to Biscay's Hotel in Washington to verbally harass and assault Angel Reese and Kennedy Carter, and it takes security 30 minutes to show up to the team bus to get this person away from the players? It even took Asia Wilson and Becky Hammon. They were ticked off about some of the commentary made about them regarding about Caitlin Clark and her popularity. And Becky Hammon and Asia Wilson said, for all of you saying that we hate Caitlin Clark, stop putting that narrative out there. None of us hate her for what she's done for our game. This is healthy growth of our sport. And then Dejanay Carrington James has kind of been a villain as well for how she's been playing defense on Caitlin again. And she has popped off about Clark and has ran her gums and stuff, though. But again, James, as a league, you don't put that bull crap out after your main attraction gets knocked out when players in this league, Carrington, Brittany Griner, for what, of course, happened in Russia and her release back from Russia back to the States, and any of the players who are gay or lesbian in this league, you don't just cater to your number one overall pick in this past draft just because they lose in the postseason, then make that statement that we will not tolerate this behavior. We will not stand for this. Where was that, though, when Kennedy Carter was getting death threats from Caitlin Clark's fan base? Where was that when they showed up in Washington, Angel Reese's hometown, and fans verbally assault them coming off the team bus, filming videos and stuff? Where's security right there? Where's the dreaded redcoats at Crypto.com Arena to keep these dumbass people in line when they're near the bench area? Caitlin Clark, James, to her credit, man, she took a lot of swords in the back to not make this a major thing until the season ended. Then she came out and said, I had to talk to security at Mohegan Sun to get certain people away from our bench here because they were assaulting my teammates verbally. They were harassing me. They were harassing some of my black teammates, some of my, lesbian teammates and stuff, where, again, I think, James, you may have seen that Nalissa Smith was playing against her girlfriend, Dejanay Carrington, on Connecticut in that series. So I think, James, that even though this has been a great year, I've been so excited about seeing this league finally get the respect it deserves, though, but not in this manner, not in the way of where we're going to stupidity and stupid levels of fan misbehavior, racist remarks and, quips being made about, the gay players in the league and all this other, bull crap, man. It's infuriating for people like me who have been trying to back this league. We've been blasted for supporting this league. I've been blasted for supporting the WNBA for as long as I have. I did a podcast on it for about 5 years when I was in college. And, I always say, publicity is good publicity, but not in this manner where the league is putting out this statement about, we're not going to tolerate this. Then why did you not do something earlier in the season when you knew damn well this was going to be happening, involving the Reese fan base and the Clark fan base? And if I have to say it again, folks, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese do not hate each other. Can we please bury that damn hatchet and quit making this about, blacks versus whites in basketball, or whatever it might be? James, I'm just very fed up with what has gone on, though, despite the great stuff in the WNBA. But as someone who has backed this league and has taken my own criticism from people out there supporting women's sports in the WNBA, this is the last thing I wanted to have happen. And sadly, James, it came to fruition in this. And it really, James, sadly, detracts away from watching what's been a very amazing hallmark season for the league, with them adding in 3 new teams in the next 2 years. Golden State will have their expansion draft in early December on ESPN. But all the negative pub now, James, is outweighing the good pub, and I absolutely dread it.
I blame the media, I think, more than the fans. I think they're part of it.
I would probably say, James, both sides get equal blame here.
Yeah.
I think with the Players Association putting out that long IG statement about Christine Brennan and, bias being shown, questioning Dejanay Carrington about a poke in the eye going for a ball in a playoff game. It's like if anyone touches Caitlin Clark, it becomes a national story. It's ridiculous.
If Caitlin Clark was black, it wouldn't be a story as well, I think. At least that's what I see what the media is talking about. You mentioned that like Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark don't hate each other. There was two things. I remember early in the year how Reese was praising Clark and how, if they played on the Olympic team, it would be a cool thing.
Which will probably happen in 4 years.
I can't wait. I'll watch that. I will watch that.
It's
They would
in
have.
our own backyard, James, in LA.
Oh, what? Yeah.
2028.
I would love the passing with each other, and then it would be a new generation of players too on that Olympic team. That's what I would like about it as well. I mean, this year was too. This Olympics was too, but even in the future, it would be more. What was I gonna say? And then Cheryl Swoops, she was on this podcast, and I know she had some feelings about Caitlin Clark that didn't help the league or progression or anything like that. And then with the fans, mentioning things to the players, and how Brittany Griner also had some things allegedly get said to her. I don't know if I have a hard time believing her. I do. I mean, I can see it, but those type of fans with those type of feelings, why would you even go spend that money to go say those things?
Precisely.
Like, why even go do that? It's already done in the comments on IG and Facebook
all the damn
and
time.
YouTube. It's the first ones you see.
I'd rather have $5. Get back in the kitchen.
Yeah, or there's worse things when it comes to BG, but I'm
just talking any women's sports post. There's always those idiots out there.
I'm just shocked by those things that happen. I just didn't think those people would just come and spend that money just to go do that. I know a few people that say these things and does those what was it, the misogynist things that people, men say or do, but they say, hey, we're never going to go to a game and support it. That's why it's kind of fishy for me when BG mentioned it. And then with Caitlin Clark, I'm wondering, were those fans black going against the white player? And if it was reversed, it would be a bigger story. Sure. That's what I want to know. I want to get down to, if it was reversed, it would be a bigger story. It would be a thing. And then that statement would have came the day before a game, or it'd be like, hey, we're not going to have fans, we're not going to have players play that game. And then, you kind of have to have, if you have a player like Brittany Griner, Caitlin Clark with her stature, you're going to have the same security that the NBA has around the benches. You just
Without
have
a doubt.
to. You can't
I think
just
now you have to reevaluate that as the playoffs go on.
You just can't have just like one person behind the bench or one person on the side. It's not like the old days where anybody could just run up. It can't be like that. And that's in every sport. It can't be like that. I want to love the league so much. And I've watched it more than years before this season. But this puts a little dent to it, knowing like, hey, this is the league's meal ticket, and you're making it uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable at the first press conference for Caitlin Clark, now that I think about it.
Yeah, because the writer from the local newspaper had his commentary, and he got suspended for 2 weeks. And then I think he might have covered the fever for the season, but he got suspended for his actions.
Yeah, that was just odd from the start. You were mentioning how the media is, so that was odd from the start of it. So I give Clark all the credit for staying in it. I know she was frustrated after playoff loss because she's a winner. She wants to win. I think everybody does. She's a perfectionist. You could definitely tell that with the work she does. But yeah, I just want to know. I thought we were like done with the fans taunting the players and about, them being gay or lesbian, whatever the case is. I just,
because what does that have to do with the game?
I thought
Like that's more of my thing is, again, who cares about political views? And if someone is, or their sexual orientation, is that going to win or lose the game for your team or whoever they're playing against? Like, give me a break.
I just figured those people wouldn't even show up, So that's why I'm questioning if BG, if that's true or not. I'm not sure.
She had been harassed before, even before the Russia snafu in airports when the team would fly commercially. Then after the whole thing happened in Russia, she was confronted by a right-wing media corporation, I believe, and then was able to get to safety, I think, after like a brief stop, I think.
I just want to know about the fans. I just want to know what they're saying, because there's all these people around them. And you would figure, okay, you would escort the fan out, and there's no video of this. That's what I want, evidence of it. Then I know it's true. That's what I want. Whenever it comes down to any situation like this, and everybody has a camera phone. So I just want to see evidence of all this happening. Because I'm getting sick of hearing narrative. So I just don't want to hear that anymore or see that anymore. I just want to see the evidence come out. Maybe, next year we'll have that. But yeah, it's just a bad look. And I understand what you're saying with the, Clark getting her treatment, but after the fact. But it didn't happen for the other, women in the league. Kind of want it to be all united at one, where there's protection for everyone,
yeah.
Like that. I understand that for sure. But you have to protect the meal ticket, I guess, first, even though it's way after the fact. I think the league probably learned the way things went this year. Some of it cannot happen next year and going forward. And hopefully they take the measures and they talk with the players and say, hey, we messed up, but we'll make sure to do whatever it takes. If we have to, eject the fans, if we have to have more security, eventually, like, everything gets bigger, right? Everything should grow, and eventually you have to put more protection around it. That's like in life, pretty much. And this is what I feel like it's happening with.
Yeah, James, and I'm not going to stop supporting and loving the WNBA. Again, like I said, I've been that way since I was in 8th grade, but it's tough, and I think you're right, though. It's a learning curve for the league, because they've not had this explosion of popularity in a long time since the league began in 97. And then, again, I still think, though, that, that there is positive light as the playoffs continue. 2 more games are on Tuesday. We are looking at, as mentioned, the Golden State Valkyries will have their expansion draft for their team on December 6th. That was announced, I believe, earlier on Monday, if not on over the weekend. And it has been a very, great season for the WNBA. But I think it's just tough when you have so much controversy from, media members and, player insights of what they have experienced over the course of this season, that it's just tough, though. And I think it's depressing, I think, in a way, James, that that such a great season, a hallmark year for this league and for women's sports, just has been, clouded by so much controversy, by, false narratives of, God, Clark and Reese hate each other. Why don't they hate each other? I thought we were supposed to be, rivals. If you're on Clark's side, then screw you. If you're on Reese's side, then, whatever. I just think, James, though, this is a major not turning point, but a major learn from it moment. And now execute your plan for 2025 to make sure that this crap stops next season.
True. I just wish it wasn't a racial thing.
But with that in mind, though, folks, as we move on here into the last part of our program, on a great program on C2C at night here, With that in mind, James, time to go, my man, off the board for now a Tuesday morning here on the left coast. Mr. Gonzales, one topic not discussed on the program that you want to get off your chest, my man. What do you got?
I was hoping I would have talked about this with you, but you skipped over in the NHL part with the Utah Hockey Club.
That is correct. I did.
And their fan-friendly concessions. I just love what happened here with the Dasani bottled water. It's probably the little one. The little bottle.
You never know.
That would be something, though. If it was
one of these right here, maybe.
Ounce, yeah, that would be great if it was that. But yeah, I'm looking at box popcorn, $3. I wish. Nachos, $3. Hot dogs, $3. Far's ice cream is $3. That kind of reminded me of what Arthur Blank did.
I was just going to say, yes.
At the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they had a fan-first menu pricing for concessions.
I believe
$2
they still do.
Coke.
Like, you can get a bunch of food for $20, like a pretzel, pizza, nachos, a refillable souvenir soda, like
hot dog, chicken tenders and fries. I'm looking at it right now. I'm hungry. Slice of za, chicken tenders and fries, nachos. Yeah, the popcorn drink, pretzel, hot dog. I wish, and I know that was something on Instagram where it's like, oh, every stadium should do this.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's just different colors everywhere when it comes.
James, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but did you see what item is omitted on that concession menu?
Beer.
Yeah, there's a winner.
I didn't know that big word. I just guessed, but yeah, I just noticed that. I'm like, hey, that's a great starting point for the ownership there with the Utah Hockey Club. I'm forgetting the dude's name.
Ryan Smith.
Thank you. I haven't heard his name since the Jazz season, and then I think either McAfee and Patrick, interviewed him after he bought the club. And
like early April, I think, is when he said, yeah, we're going to have like a bracket. We're going to have people vote for the team name for 2025-26. Yeah.
And what was the team you wanted? The team name,
I forget. Well, I remember
it was
putting
2 Z's.
Give me a minute. Because I recall putting in 2 winter theme names and 2 bee names for the Beehive State. I think I went with Blizzard and I forget the other one that I voted for with the winner. But my 2 names, though, was Buzz and Swarm, I think. But Buzz didn't make the final cut. But my name of Utah Buzz made the ESPN.com story from Emily Kaplan, Greg Wyshynski, and Ryan S. Clark, I believe. But I think it was Blizzard, Yeti, Swarm, and Buzz were my 4 names that I picked.
Maybe it was Buzz with the 2 Z's because I know you wanted the Jazz theme to stay.
Same with Blizzard.
Yeah, Blizzard.
Dairy Queen, sponsor him.
I can go for that any time of year. Upside down cone or a Blizzard.
Oh yeah, baby.
A shout out Emily Kaplan too. She's great.
Love her
Kenny
work,
Albert.
man.
I just heard him today on a commercial. I'm like, yeah, I can't wait for him to do hockey games again.
Yeah,
I try to. Yeah. I know he'll probably do the Rangers or whatever, but I love it when he does a game with Jonathan Vilma on NFL on Fox. Those 2 are just tremendous. Also, another topic I guess I'll get to that we didn't get to about MLB, and I woke up and I thought this was a joke, but it wasn't. The home and road uniforms are returning to the MLB All-Star Game next season.
Hallelujah.
And I cannot wait for that because ever since 2021, the new jerseys for the
actual home jerseys are coming home to the All-Star Game.
Home and away, and I can't wait because we've
Especially
had
the hat that will still be worn, I believe.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. As long as it's the team color of the team, I don't mind that. Yeah, because of those Nike jerseys since 21 that have just been abysmal. I mean, I didn't mind the Seattle ones.
I actually have that one in my collection, actually.
I don't mind. Those are nice.
At a Was it a Padre game? I think I got it actually at the Blink concert, I think. I think the Padres had the team store open before Blink took the stage at Petco. I'm like, oh, they got All-Star Game unis from last season on sale. I'll get one.
So I liked it, though, because it was like a throwback to when they hosted in 2001. They had the dark green and the
finally, they're coming home, baby. They're coming home.
The navy blue, I think it was. So they kind of went to a throwback. But this year's was the straw.
Oh, man, it was horrible. Like salmon pink for the American League and black and blue for the National League. Like, what in the HE double hockey sticks is going on here?
I was so happy I worked that night, so I didn't have to watch it. And I came home and watched the highlights. I was like, what's wrong with my TV? Oh, what? So, yeah, I can't wait for this because this is what I grew up with. And what we've known forever is
precisely
the player in the team's jersey. So if you don't even watch the game, which is a dying art form, as you know, the fans out there, especially the new ones, maybe you don't know. You've heard of Mike Trout, you've seen him in a commercial, but you don't know what team he plays for. There's people that you don't even know who Aaron Judge is. And if they only watch one game, it's the All-Star game of the playoffs, they know, hey, what is a pinstripe team he plays for?
I have to interrupt and interject. We have a developing story from ESPN.com concerning the ongoing carousel of college realignment. Pete Thamel is reporting within the last hour the Mountain West Conference is in deep discussions about adding the University of Texas El Paso as a full-time member starting sometime within the next year or two. The potential addition of the Miners has loomed as an obvious target for the league from both a geography and tradition standpoint. The school would give the Mountain West an additional team in Texas as the league rebuilds after 5 schools bolted for the Pac-12 conference. The addition of UTEP would give the league 7 full-time members, joining UNLV, San Jose State, Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico, and Air Force. And the Mountain West still needs to get to 8 schools to become a formal conference, as Hawaii remains a football-only member. Mountain West is trying to get to 8 members, the minimum for a league, after Utah State, Boise State, SDSU, San Jose State, and Fresno State all announced their intentions to depart for the Pac-12. Further, the Mountain West also has issued a verbal offer to the Texas State Bobcats in suburban San Marcos, Texas, per sources. No clarity or timeline has emerged on Texas State's decision. The Pac-12 has also, though, shown interest as well in the Texas State Bobcats. If UTEP goes to the Mountain West Conference, they will give the Mountain West a strong football and basketball league, with UTEP's home opener at the Sun Bowl against Southern Utah drawing 41,633 fans. The Miners have made 15 bowl games, and their men's basketball team is also best known for their 1966 team, then called Texas Western College, led by famed head coach Don Haskins, who rolled out an all-African-American starting 5. So with that in mind, James, UTEP now might be in the Mountain West Conference, my man. Any initial thoughts on this developing story?
It's hard replacing what they're going to lose. Where's UTEP at right now? The big what? No,
I believe they're in the WAC. I want to say where they've been forever. I think.
Yeah, that would be weird seeing them leave the WAC. I mean,
yes, they've been in the WAC. Or no. Excuse me, no. For football, per Pete Thamel's reporting, UTEP has been currently in Conference USA.
That's where I've seen them.
They had been in the WAC, and then the WAC dissolved football, and now they're in Conference USA, a la New Mexico State.
That's where I've seen them. Because, like you mentioned, they go to bowl games every year.
They host a bowl game every year.
I remember it was just funny because I was thinking about, like, when's the last time USC's been on CBS? And in the 2000s or 90s, when they weren't as good, either UCLA or USC would end up in the Sun Bowl, and that's the only time that I've heard of
aftershave lotion.
Yeah, that's the only time I've heard of that. Was the Sun Bowl was when, like, before I guess Pete Carroll was there, he went there, but I wonder who else would get to the Mountain West. Though Now they're
Interesting.
really
Now
reaching.
it's interesting, James, and now they're looking at Texas State, the chief rival of UTSA, now to go to either the Pac-12 or Mountain West.
Is that the Bobcats?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Them and UTSA have a massive rivalry too in college athletics. I believe it's called the I-35 or I-70 series, one of the two.
Yeah,
It's a
hopefully
massive rivalry though down in that part of Texas.
hopefully they could get both together. But again, with what has been happening to the Mountain West, where they've lost everybody pretty much to the Pac-12, everybody good. They don't feel like a power conference at all. But I remember UTEP just for like highlights of like Tim Hardaway when he played there for basketball. But other from that, like nothing jumps out to me about UTEP or Texas State. Texas State, it just sounds like a school in a movie. You know, I don't even think about that. I guess there's a North Texas maybe still. I can't remember if they're around, but
North Texas, yeah, they are still around. The Mean
they're still
Green.
around. That's who they are. Reminds me of one of my favorite movies. But I don't have much because I just know like, hey, Mountain West is just trying to recoup whoever they can, but it's not gonna take place of who they already lost. It feels like to me.
Yeah, man. We'll keep an eye on that story, folks, as the week prolongs. But per Pete Thamel on ESPN.com within the last hour, if not two, developing story, UTEP in deep talks with the Mountain West Conference at this stage of the ongoing, never-ending carousel of college realignment in college athletics. With that, James, I wanted to go off the board and talk about you had told me before the show that you had kind of caught the Ducks and Kings today in preseason hockey on Monday. I believe you probably watched the Kings telecast on Bally Sports West today, I want to say. Well, I actually flipped over to the brand new Victory Plus streaming app today for the Ducks and Kings game. Folks, in case you did not hear that news, but because of the ongoing strife of Bally Sports, the Anaheim Ducks and Dallas Stars have both jumped to streaming-only platforms for the upcoming NHL season on Victory Plus, which, by the way, is very cool. It is totally 100% FREE. There's no subscription. You just have to give them your name, your email, and you can watch Ducks hockey in the LA DMA, which is the LA designated media market. So LA County, Santa Barbara, San Diego, Imperial, basically all of Southern California can watch the Ducks play 78 games if you're in San Diego. All 78 games will be on Victory Plus, but if you're like James and you go between here and Orange County, you can watch all the games too on Channel 11 or KCOP Channel 13 as well. And James, I flipped on the broadcast today. I really was like intrigued to see a team that's jumped to streaming platforms only because the Padre games locally are still on cable, though they're not on Bally Sports San Diego, which is now in the graveyard, sadly. But now going to the Apple TV tonight to watch the Ducks play the Kings on Victory Plus, man. Great feed. Looked like a regular TV broadcast. John Alders, Brian Hayward are back for their 29th and 31st seasons of operation as the Ducks play-by-play and color broadcast team. Kent French, though, did announce he's moving on from Ducks hockey on TV. So Ali Lozoff and Alexis Downey, who's working for the Ducks tune-in radio station, will now take over some hosting duties alongside former Ducks goalie Guy Hebert on the broadcast. But, James, it looked very well done. It had the same feel of watching on Bally Sports or even FSN West or Prime Ticket back in the heyday of the RSN's launching. And really, James, was very cool, though, like to see how this has worked out again. And more importantly, again, James, 100% free, no subscription, no cable needed. You just have to have a streaming platform. Give them give them all your information, and you can watch the Ducks play in the LA market, LA, Orange County, San Diego, Hawaii, you name it, all for free. And it's all, James, being driven by them selling commercial spots to keep it free for both the Stars, the Ducks. The Blues are playing some games on there. They also have rights to Dude Perfect. They also have rights to Red Bull Racing and some other stuff too. But, James, I was very intrigued, man, and it was very cool to see it launch today for the Ducks. I know the game was a 4-0 loss to LA for the preseason. But certainly, James, new times now here for sports watching on TV for sure. And I'm very, very and I'm really, James, was very much locked in to see how Victory ran their show, man. Very well done for the first time being on being on Victory Plus tonight on Monday here in the LA, San Diego, and Orange County TV market for the Ducks.
I was wondering about that. Because I just remember hearing that the Ducks will be on Channel 13 up there.
And Channel 11.
That's right. And then what about San Diego?
Victory Plus.
Yeah, I was wondering how that would go. I'll be honest with you, I haven't watched a game probably since last year. A Ducks game, I should say. What stood out to me about tonight's game, just the first look at the new uniforms, all orange,
teams.
and then the Kings going to their old look. Just too much orange for me for the Ducks. That's it. I don't know. It just feels like too much orange. I wish their helmet was black, but whatever. But at least the old Wild Wing logo's there. That's the main part.
In a brand new way, baby.
Yeah, I like that one. But it seems like a trend. I know the Phoenix Suns, the new owner, did that last year where all the games are available locally.
Yes.
That aren't on, nationally. It's just a trend that, fans have to love. Especially for Dallas Stars. Remember, they had a playoff team last year. A couple of years.
They've been very
now.
consistent recently. They've been, very well run. And them and the Ducks, or the Stars, launched Victory Plus, and then the Ducks caught on in late August to join the network. And then the Blues had a couple of their preseason games on Victory Plus, but they're still going to be on Bally Sports Southwest, I believe. But yeah, James, we are entering a new chapter, my man, for watching sports on TV.
I just want to know what's going to happen with the Clippers, because...
So what I can confirm, James, is they will still be on Bally SoCal, and I believe 16 games, maybe more, maybe less, will be available on KTLA Channel 5, KSWB, Fox 5, and KUSI here in the San Diego market.
I did see that. That's like the only thing I've seen of coverage. I was wondering if
I
they
believe
were
the
gonna
NBA already renewed the rights for the with Bally for the season before they finally just take the contract and shred it.
Good. I forgot to Google it all this time, and I was figuring the season's coming closer. And also, I was wondering if the Oceanside game was going to be on Bally's or not.
If not, it's probably going to be on KUSI or Fox 5.
Yeah, maybe. Again, I'm hoping to go to that, but probably
or
not
be on
make
ESPN.
it.
Who knows?
I want to do that, but yeah, it seems like a trend. Like eventually, I know the Angels will have to figure something out. You just wonder if they'll go, back to the local channels up there, or let's say if Amazon swoops in or something like that. If they'll have a streaming service that you have to pay for.
I would think
Or
it'd be
just
like
MLB.
MLB.TV
Yeah,
probably at that
never
rate,
mind.
it sounds like.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the options, though. It was like Amazon's going to come in and buy the package, and you have to get it from there. But yeah, as long as they could do the same thing with the Padres, I think it'd be okay. There's a dying fan base anyway, so it's like for the Angels, so it's like probably best to stay where they are. I'm just happy the season's over. Don't have to watch them again.
Yeah, James, I'm kind of skimming through the Clipper TV or schedule real quick. Games will be available on Clipper Vision or on KTLA. The national TV schedule's been out, though. I can confirm that per the Clippers, that game in Oceanside will not be on television.
Right.
But
that's
they
what
do
I
have
figured.
at least, I think, 16 games, I think is the NBA max to put on over-the-air TV. And like you said, Matt Ishba worked hard in Phoenix to put the Suns on, 3 stations in Phoenix. A lot of that's been happening in the NHL though too. Like the Panthers in the NHL will be on 4 different stations, I think, across their DMA. Again, Dallas and Anaheim will be on Victory Plus. But again, James, it looked like a regular broadcast. But again, man, more importantly, again, 100% free of charge. No monthly subscription. None of that. Just give them your name, your email, and bang, you're able to watch those games, man, for free for up to 72 hours until the broadcast gets pulled off the air, with the exception of the 4 games on national TV.
Yeah, Yeah, I'm looking through the Clippers schedule. I can see all their preseason games, other from the one here, is on KTLA. And then regular
Which would
season, it's
mean
all over the
Channel
place.
5 or Channel 9 in San Diego.
Yeah, I was worried last year when I saw those games locally down here, and I was happy about it. Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to the season, but I want to see how they play. And again, when they went to KTLA last year, it just reminded me of all the years they were on it before.
All the years of the Lakers playing on KCAL when they were on the road, and they weren't playing on FSN West when they were at home.
Yeah, I missed that when I was down here, but I think the teams and the owners are just scrambling and trying to figure out what's next. I know the Padres are going to have to go through that. What do you think happens? Do they just keep doing what they're doing, or
I think they're going to keep doing it. I think the fact that the commissioner said that the Padres have raked in like 40,000 new subscribers to Padres.tv during the at the All-Star break this year.
Wow,
like the model is working apparently, but still, like it's still not helping though in a way, because that payroll, or part of the payroll, was the TV contract, and with them being run by the league, that does kind of hurt them in Arizona, and I think the Reds and the Rockies too. Like, we'll see what happens, though. But great first telecast, though, for Victory Plus, with the Anaheim Ducks playing the LA Kings in preseason hockey action on Monday night. All right, James, we've gone way past our limits here towards 1 o'clock in the morning here today. Again, like I said, I'll be at Game 1 of the Padres-Braves series at Petco Park. It'll be the first time in 18 years I'm at a playoff game after the Padres were knocked out by the Cardinals in the 06 NLDS a long time ago in my youth days, sadly. But Mr. Gonzales, final thoughts for the night's program are what?
I remember watching that game at Carlsbad High School. Shows you how long ago that was. I was in high school. I think this upcoming weekend, I think I'm going to buy a mini plan for those San Diego Clippers. I'm interested to see how a G League team does here in Oceanside and San Diego County, if people are going to show up or not. But instead of buying season tickets, because I want to be available on Thursdays for Inside the NBA, its last season, I want to just go to games I feel like I'm not missing anything on. So luckily they have this 12-game plan, and I can't wait to get into it, and also invite some people out to see if they like the product as well.
For sure.
I think there's a couple of concerts I want to go to as well. I think Seether and Both Thugs and Harmony and whomever
Kate's
else
coming for the first ever concert.
I'm not.
The one-hit wonders themselves.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go, but I think that's cool that they're getting those. I remember concerts at the Pier, but this is a whole arena, so I'm interested to see, how many people show up to a new arena in a new area. If it's going to be any different than other places. So I'm looking forward to that on Saturday to purchase some tickets and get involved in that way that I've really never had before. I never had like a home team in the home city. So I'm kind of looking forward to this in a way.
Yeah, that will be fun to see how the San Diego Clippers of the NBA G League do, in fact, perform this year at the brand new Front Wave Arena up in Oceanside. Final thoughts again, folks. Once more, game night will be moved once more on Tuesday. Again, I'll be at Petco Park for Game 1 of the NL Wildcard Series tomorrow at Petco Park, 5:38 first pitch on ESPN. We will, folks, see you back here again as the week prolongs. Again, as always, please continue supporting C2C. I know that J-Mac kind of got left high and dry, but you know what? Stuff happens. We have lives away from this, so we will hopefully do our best to be get ourselves back on track and be bigger and better as our week does, in fact, roll on here with more C2C programming, folks. For James Gonzales and the entire cast and crew, Callan McClurg saying good night and or good morning if you're joining us here on replay well after 12:49 in the morning on a Tuesday. We'll see you folks back here for our next program of C2C at Night next Monday, back here at 11 p.m. in the evening, folks. Until next time, have a good night. Bye-bye.